the Colts?
Not only the Colts.
Oh,
Matt
that was transitioning.
Ryan. So Eli, on Monday Night Football last week, brought up so graciously to remind Shannon Sharp that Peyton Manning was cut. He didn't demand a trade.
Oh, I know where this is going. Okay.
And then
I know where this is going.
The Colts cut Peyton Manning. What does he do? He goes and throws 7 touchdowns, breaks the NFL record on Thursday Night Football, his first game with the Broncos versus the Ravens. And then they draft Andrew Luck, who retires because they couldn't build him an offensive line.
No, let's go through this deep, nice and slow, right?
Yeah.
The end of the 2011 season, after a 4th neck surgery, they cut Peyton Manning. And all of that next year, well, Peyton Manning has a broken neck and he's out for the season. They're starting the Kerry Collins of the world and the Dan Orlovskis and the career backups who should never be playing in the NFL because they've proven that they're not starting quarterbacks. They go 2-14.
Yeah, most notably Dan Orlovsky in there.
Yeah. And then they draft Andrew Luck with the first overall pick, who was one of the most can't miss prospects of our time.
Yep.
Andrew Luck has a good career, however, surrounds him with no weapons because Reggie Wayne retires very soon after. So does they had a good tight end, if I'm not mistaken. They had 2 good receivers when they had. I know Marvin Harrison was good with.
Yeah, they had Reggie Wayne, and they brought in Andre Johnson at the end of his career.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking of Ty, which Ty was with Andrew Luck
his whole career.
Yeah, so they have Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck retires in what, 2018, 2017?
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. And then his backup was, they ended up going after the 3rd string Patriots quarterback in Jacoby Brissett.
I think he's already on the team.
The Colts?
Yeah, I think they already had him.
Either way, they rocked Jacoby Brissett for a year. They are average at best. They're like, okay, competing for a wild card at the end. They don't like how he played. So they call up the 40-year-old Phillip Rivers, who has spent his entire career with the Chargers, loyal with the Chargers. The Chargers say, you know, I think it's time we move on. We just drafted a quarterback. We're good. We're just going to let you do your thing, Phillip. Just go off into retirement. Enjoy what was a successful career with the Chargers. They bring him out of retirement. They make the playoffs. They lose to the Bills, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then Phillip retires. They go after Carson Wentz, who Philly desperately needed to get out of town. So they trade him, goes to the Colts, has a good season with them overall. I mean, they end up going 9-8, but we get to the end of the season. They win the game. They go into the playoffs. Carson Wentz, by the way, has 33 touchdowns and 7 picks on the season. Plays very well. Against the Jaguars, though, plays pretty horrible. Has a horrible game. Plays a Carson Wentz kind of game.
Plays a Colts versus the Jags type of game. This isn't a Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz played pretty bad. Carson Wentz deserves some blame.
Yeah, he did, but so did every other Colts quarterback versus the Jags. It's
but anyways,
not a Carson Wentz thing.
The Carson Wentz thing, he gets all the blame for this Jags thing after they wet their pants against the Jaguars in week 17, the Urban Meyer-less Jaguars, that is. And then they decide, you know what? Carson Wentz, he was all of the issues in Indianapolis. Let's go after Matt Ryan. And that's where it leads us into today. They face the Jaguars for the first time since getting absolutely humiliated against the Jaguars in week 17 of last year. And now we get to this game where the Jaguars shut out the Indianapolis Colts. So here's the answer that we got. You know how we mentioned at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Questions were answered. Guess what? It wasn't Carson Wentz. It was the Colts. It was Frank Reich. It was the GM. It was the Colts in general. Yes, they've been so good drafting. Their defense is so good. Couldn't stop the Jaguars, who were one of the worst teams last year. I know what you're going to say. Oh, well, they got Christian Kirk. Yes, that's right. The Jaguars have improved. I'm not going to deny that. However, you're the Colts. You're paying Matt Ryan over $40 million. You have arguably the best running back in football, and you can't beat the Jaguars. Better yet, you can't score a point against the Jaguars. You can't score a point. So I hope Jim Irsay is in his yacht right now. He's looking at his team. He's like, well, let's see. Last year, we were pretty good with Carson Wentz. We traded him so that we could take 37-year-old Matt Ryan, who the last 3 years has looked like he's continuously regressed, can't throw a deep ball anymore.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan looks like 42-year-old Drew Brees, although Drew Brees was better because Drew Brees, scored points. Colts right now, look, embarrassing. Not only do you tie with the Texans, you get shut out by the Jaguars, two of the worst teams in that division, two teams that you should get the win against. You should get 4 easy wins there. You can't get easy wins against those teams. Oh God! Don't even get us started when we have them against the Chiefs next week. Good Lord,
Yeah,
that's going to be a real doozy. Colts, you're a clown. You know what I want from the Colts now? I want the Colts to win 4 games this year because they deserve it. After what they did to Carson Wentz, after what they did to poor Andrew Luck, giving him no help, and then forcing Phillip out of retirement. No, Colts, you're trash. This is the end of Frank Reich's era,
yeah.
and I'm excited for it.
This is the end of Frank Reich's and frankly their GM too, Chris Ballard. It's like everyone's like, oh yeah, Chris Ballard's got guts. He does whatever it takes to get it done. He'll go out there. He doesn't care about draft picks. If he needs a player on his team, he'll go out there and get it.
Which is a complete lie.
Apparently, he has no plan at quarterback because he brings in Rivers, as you mentioned, past his prime. Then Wentz. Then he's like, nope, we don't want Wentz. We want Matt Ryan past his prime. When Carson Wentz playing really well so far this year, he looks young, he looks athletic, and he would help your team a lot more. But every single year, I feel like the media's like, yeah, the Colts on paper have a top 5 team.
Which is always a
Why
lie.
are you egregiously underperforming? It's like their defense has talent left and right. They always have a top 5 offensive line in football. You have a top 3 running back in football. I get your best receiver is Michael Pittman, but after that, it's like you could use a few more receivers, but you really got to figure out the quarterback position or this thing's never going to work. You're always so mediocre to competitive, but you're never an actual contender. You're more of just a pretender trying to stay relevant in the same realm as the Cowboys, except you guys don't perform well at anything and you don't blow teams out. So it's like the Colts are just so boring, but I'll give credit to the Jags. Go out there, get Doug Peterson, taught Frank Reich everything he knows. Frank Reich came from Philadelphia. Then you go out, get Christian Kirk, gets 2 touchdowns. Trevor is 25 for 30 in this game.
Yeah.
Throws for over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no mistakes. So Trevor Lawrence getting a lot better this year. We'll keep an eye on his progression, but overall, it's like this has to stop. I mean, you haven't beat the Jags in Jacksonville since 2014. I mean, it's just ridiculous and laughable at this point. So a team that did win, though,